is the law and the promise in Blake's vision. Um, this is still a continuation. This is actually two classes in one because the time for both of them coincide and the theme for both of them are actually similar. So the group class, which is the perfect life is within, that's ongoing right now, is actually we're having the third class of it here. This is the third class here. And then the Sunday series lecture, God's perfect image. We're having the second class here. So we have people from many audiences who are actually attending here with us. The lecture, for those of us who might not have known what we're actually studying in the Perfect Life is Within group class, the lecture that we are deriving our lessons from is It Is Within by Neville Goddard. So if you could lay your hands on it, I think the audio is what is really available online. Then you can read it or you can listen to it rather. So let's get into our lesson today: the law and the promise in Blake's vision. William Blake, a great author, a writer, poet, um, artist, actually. Let's see. So William Blake, a wonderful artist of his time, and it was also a great, let's say, a really, really inspired person. Was very much inspired. He wrote fantastic um, works, revelations, by the way, not just any work of art. But if you pick any of his writings, his poetry or designs to read or to study, and you read the interpretations that are offered by various critics and interpreters, commentaries, you would actually find very funnily you would find disjoint. It's like they're disconnected. It's as if they never really read some of the things it says. It's funny, but well, you'd find the same thing if you approach the Bible and then you approach commentaries that are written of the Bible, and you'd wonder, did they actually read everything that the Bible has said? Because if they did, they wouldn't maintain this particular idea or that idea. For example, this man was writing about the imagination, and many times he would say, "This is all about the imagination," or "it's all imagination and states," and so on and so forth. But you would read the interpretations, and you would see that they think it's talking about England or about some social events of his time. That's not it. It's talking about our human experience. Neville really grasped this man. For those of us who might want to know, well, maybe we couldn't see where Neville was spending his own resources to learn with Abdullah. Maybe we couldn't, although those of us who know that he actually sometimes would take Abdullah um, to the theater, and then he would pay for the tickets and they would watch a certain thing. There was some of us might know that, but you may never really see him do any further investment with learning or studying with Abdullah. But when it comes to Blake, you would actually see him speak about his how proud he is to invest in studying Blake. And the works of Blake they're like available online for free. You can download them and all of that. But it said the original designs, you can't even buy them with millions of dollars today. And when Blake was alive, Blake was selling them for God knows how many pence. It was selling them for how many was it pennies or cents or maybe even shillings at the time. It was selling them for. And here today, you can't buy one of them with millions. And it's this man we want to study and look at his ideas today. Now, we are saying that the perfect life is within you. In yesterday's class, for those of us in the group in the exercise for this month, in yesterday's class, we explored this particular idea. Everything is within you. And then we said, you may have an objective experience that has no subjective impression, but you never have a subjective experience that doesn't have an objective impression. Okay, something may be happening around you, but you're unaware of it. Maybe even you're aware of it, but it's like irrelevant to you. Oh, please give me a moment. I'd like us to all stay muted. Okay, good. So, as I was saying, you may have you may have an objective experience that doesn't have an objective and a subjective impression. Something happens physically, and then you're just looking at it like you're indifferent or like you're not aware of what's going on. That happens. But if you feel something within you, even though there is no objective backing for it, no objective experience of it, it actually automatically influences everything from your perception of the objective experience to your reaction to the objective experience and your behavior, your actions, your plans, your expectations. And it's all just a subjective experience. We started with that to really illustrate that everything is within. And everything is really only as real as it is in us. It's not the physical thing that's real, it's the mental thing that's real. If you don't still quite understand or grasp or believe that, just act as if you were dead for a moment, as if you were lifeless. Pretend as if you had no knowledge of your environment. Don't worry, you're not gonna die. The real death, we've all done it. And we're actually going to learn about the real death here. We've all done the real death, and it's to become humans, even though we were gods. So you're not gonna die. But pretend as if you were dead to your environment, to your world, the things around you. Then you realize that everything you think is so dear or so important, that's so real on the objective level, actually vanishes. But one thing does not vanish: you yourself. You cannot be absolutely lifeless. You cannot be unaware of being. And as a result, you can recreate everything from just that one substance that is you yourself. You really can. Is everything really within you? When Blake said, all that you behold, though it appears without, it is within, in your own wonderful human imagination, of which this world of mortality is but a shadow. Is that true? Everything in this vast, enormous world is the human imagination, the only thing vast enough to contain the immensity of space. Is it? And is the human imagination one with the presence we call God? Is it? How many of you here just maybe mention give a response in the chat and then I would be able to have a feedback, okay? How many of you here, when you were younger, much younger, when you were about 5, 6, 7, and you saw newer things around, you saw things around you, and you began to ask, who created all these things? And maybe you were told by your parents or older people around you that, oh well, God created everything. And then you ask a question, you asking yourself, you don't necessarily ask them, but you're asking yourself, so how was the first cloth made? How was the first shoes made? Has anyone of you ever asked those questions before? Please comment yes if you've ever asked yourself those questions. Might be when you were very, very young as that, might be during your teenage years, but you began to have awareness of actually things are created. And you're like, so how did the first clock ever happen? How did the first house? How did great, great. Thank you. Thank you, Madre. Thank you. Good. How did the first house ever happen? Oh, you didn't have to go far. And then you probably wonder, how did the first caveman ever do it 6,000 years ago to know what fire was like? How did they even discover fire? How did they know how to shoot arrows? How did they know how to swim? Because you had the idea that all these things were created. So how did it first actually occur? All right, good that you. Thank you very much for the feedback. You don't have to go so far. How about you ask this? 100 years ago, there were no mobile phones. No, none. Okay, and here we are today. We have mobile phones. How was the first phone made? Now, to answer that question, do you realize that any and every of these things were first made only from the imagination before there was ever any physical type of it? Because we're talking about the first one that's made, the first phone, the first airplane. We don't even have to go that far. I'm sure each and every one of us here has actually done a first something in our lives when we had no evidence that it could ever be, no single predecessor of it in physical terms. And the only thing that ever happened was we sat down to imagine it. We imagined life from that viewpoint. I mean, it's not existing, you've not seen it physically, but you can see it in your mind's eye, and you created it. And it's actually a new creation. But what you're seeing in the physical is the second creation. The first one is the choice in your mind. And yesterday we discussed it. We said that all things are already made. It's like the movies on Netflix. They're already there. They're already produced. But you're here to create the end scenes. Those ones, they're arbitrary. You have to create it. The device by which we can communicate across the globe. In each person's room, you could be in your lounge right now, you could be by the poolside, you could be traveling, you could, doesn't matter where you are, but we could all connect globally. This device first had to be imagined on a certain theme only. The theme only has to be we want to have something that can make two people or more communicate instantly, no matter where they are around the world. That has to be the only thing that started it. And that's already a part of creation. That's already in the imagination. That particular idea. And then someone sat down and conceived it. It would be nice to actually have something like that. Then it began to dream. And that's how the whole thing that made a phone necessary came about. The plot, the patterns, the events, the actions, the genius, the intelligence, the discoveries of laws of physics that made your phone possible, that made my mobile phone possible. They all happened because someone sat down and created a scene where they imagined people saying we were communicating across the globe. That's all. They just had a scene where they imagined people saying, yes, we can now talk across miles. That's all it takes. Remember yesterday we said If you imagine that you are loved, you are necessitating every single human experience that would make you be loved. And those experiences include the sunshine, the rain, and every human being that is born, the way they are nurtured, the experiences they have, for them to know what love is, what being loved is, and what giving love is, so that one day they can give you the love that makes you be loved. Is it all really within you? Well, yes. You don't have to go far back as the first shed. You only have to look at the first shed of your own type. I remember the days when I would fantasize in myself and go, I would like to have this kind of suit, that kind of suit. I'd not really seen them anywhere before, actually. Not because they don't exist or people haven't made them. I think I've seen one or two other types of it around on the internet. But I just conceived it. Just thought I would like something like this. And it was all entirely in my imagination. And then it became a fact. So, all those things you ever wonder, where was the first one made? How was the first car made? Well, now you know the answer. You've asked it from childhood, and when they said, yeah, God created everything, then you wonder, so God created the clothes? Where did they do it? Where was the manufacturing plant where God was doing it? And yeah, you knew that the answer couldn't match. But now you know why. It's because God is your own wonderful human imagination. And as He created all things in the universe, He, and that is you, are creating now. So, the human imagination is one with the presence we call God. And if you're still wondering, is it all really within me? Okay. How many of you are in your homes right now, in your apartments, your rooms, your homes? Just type a yes if you are. You're in your house, you're in your own room, in your apartment, type a yes. Okay, good. Now, look at your environment, okay? And you realize that you actually imagined it to be arranged first before it became arranged the way the whole thing is arranged now. You imagine the TV would be where it is. You imagine the chairs would be where they are. You imagine the table would be where it is. You imagine the bed would be where it is in the room. You imagine everything before they became now as you perceive them to be. And before you imagined them that way, or before they were, yeah, before you imagined them that way, they weren't existing in the order that they exist now. They weren't actually existing. Maybe the chair, the furniture of your house, maybe it was just wood somewhere, just tree, in fact, somewhere across the world, 1,000 kilometers away from you, maybe. But you're imagining a certain order of your house, and now you look at your environment, and that's the order you have. And every time you have to rearrange the house, you actually imagine the order you like to be in first before you can even move anything in the house into that new position. So all that you behold, even though it's now looking like it's independent of you and without, it's actually started within you. It's all in you. The real forms of things remain in the imagination. And this world is only a shadow. And so, knowing that or realizing now that our imagination is the one thing that is vast enough to contain the immensity of space, we just saw right now that your room actually is in your imagination. The arrangement of your room is in your imagination. We saw now that your mobile phone is in your imagination. We saw now that the shirts, the clothes you wear, they all started in your imagination. And we can go as far as saying your income is in your imagination. You can say your friendships. If you have great friends, it started in your imagination. And if you feel lonely, it's actually started in your imagination. Everything. The sun is in your imagination. The moon is in your imagination. We take all of these things for granted. We think they are like laws, but they are not. They are imagined into being, into place. The only law is your own imagination. Gravity is actually really within you. Now realizing that, we can begin to appreciate the words of Blake here when he says, "What seems to be is to those to whom it seems to be." These words are really powerful, and I'd like you to appreciate the extent of what they are saying. What you currently observing in your world wasn't always there. No, it wasn't. You weren't born with it. I don't know what that condition is, but you weren't born with it. It might be something you're so happy about, but you weren't born with it. It might be something you're unhappy about, but you weren't born with it. Right? Is there anything in your life right now that, yes, you were actually born with it? No, there isn't. In fact, what even your body right now is not the same as the body of a child. I hope you know that. I hope you know that your bones are not the same as the bones of a child, of a baby, of you when you were a baby. Your body system is not the same thing as a baby's body system. If you think it is, then we'll give the kind of food you eat to a baby. And then ask your baby to run the way you run and do things the way you do things with your body. They are not the same. You weren't born with anything you currently have now. Okay. But your life has things in it. You have things that you would call, this is my life. And we take it so seriously and we think it is my life. And I'm not saying it is not your life. I'm only letting you realize that it is your life only because you make it seem to be your life. That's all. That it doesn't have to be if you don't like it. If you like it, of course, keep making it be. So this particular statement is power and it's a two-edged sword. So we can use it constructively and we can use it redemptively. Constructively means we can use it to create um, a new, something completely new. You want something to be in your life, and maybe it's not there right now. You look at your life and you don't see it there. Okay, well, make it seem to be in your life. Because what seems to be is to those to whom it seems to be. And that's what those in great eternity are contemplating. That's what they're saying. What seems to be is to those to whom it seems to be. So you want something. What is it you want? Just before this call, someone was asking me, wow, congratulations. What was your inner speech for your marriage? And I said, wow, my wife. And I actually gave a very short version of it because I was listening to type a lot. And then they said, all right, so what about when distractions come? So, well, I returned to my inner conversation. And it said, any techniques? So that's the only thing I ever did. I made it seem to be to me, even though it wasn't there. And I'm actually still going to write a more elaborate story about this, but I would like everyone here to realize that my personal actions were opposites of having a relationship at the time that my relationship started. What was my personal action? I remember that day I was still living at the hotel. It was Thursday that I met my queen. On the Friday when I returned to my hotel, I packed my bag. I was getting ready to travel to another city. I was going to be attending a business event. And then after the event, stay there for about 2 weeks. This was exactly my plan. Stay there for 2 weeks, then travel to another city. And I'd actually made inquiries about the two cities I'd be going. In fact, I told the person I'll be in your city by August of this time, and I'll be about the third or fourth city I should be in about the time. So, so I was planning to travel across all the cities in my country, and when I had done that, then begin to travel all the countries in Africa. Then when I'd done that, then travel around the world. Actually, that was what I wanted to do. I didn't want to have anything with relationships anymore. I was taking a break from relationship by my conscious actions. But well, at night I would do this assumption. I would practice this in a conversation. I would make it seem to be to myself that I was actually married to my wife. That I could say, wow, my wife too. And then I gave her all the qualities of love in a woman, and I would sleep at night as if that was true. But I was packing my bags for travel. And I didn't make the travel, not because I didn't want to, but because I couldn't. I mean, situations just happened. The circumstance just made it impossible for me. People try to control their circumstances by physical actions, but you don't realize your circumstances are actually also actions. They're all of it are actions. I mean, they're all your actions are actually circumstances. I meant to say your actions are in fact circumstantial. They are based upon the options you have from the circumstances. The only things that are not circumstantial about you that you can do are your own assumptions. You can assume something completely independent of all the situations that are going on in your life, and you can stay faithful to that assumption. You can. You can make something seem to be to you, even though it's not there. And that's what we call an inner conversation. Coin of Heaven, chapter 5, Awakened Imagination, Neville defines it this way. It says persuasion is an inner effort of intense attention. Then it says to listen as though you heard is to evoke, it is to activate. To listen as though you heard is to evoke, it is to activate. Oh, okay, listen. So no one is saying anything. It only seems to be to you as if they were saying something. And then you listen as though you actually heard it. And it's all in your imagination because that's the only place you can listen as if you heard it. If you say it on your lips, you're not listening as if you heard it anymore. You're actually saying it. But you're listening as if you heard it. You make it seem to be. Then Blake says, those in great eternity, they contemplate on love and on death, on this world. This is the world of love and death. You are love. This world is death. The human imagination is love. That's God. And all states, infinite states, the whole universe, that is death. And they say, what seems to be is to those to whom it seems to be. So if I make it seem to be to myself that I am loved, that I'm in a happy, loving relationship, it would be. Oh, I don't know when. I don't know how. I don't know by whom. But it will be. It is, actually. That's the law. It is. Because it seems to be to me. And then it continues, it says, divine mercy steps beyond and redeems man in the body of Jesus. And that is actually the promise. The time is coming when you're going to awaken. From the depth of your consciousness, you'll wake up and realize, I am God all the way, making it seem to be to myself that I am man. And as a result, it is true that I am man, but actually I am God. So I said, this particular law, what seems to be is to those whom it seems to be, actually is both constructive, I can create something completely new, and it is redemptive. I can realize that what I have in my life currently, if I don't like it, it is not necessarily permanent. It is actually not permanent. It only seems to be to me, and that is what it is. So I can change it by making something new seem to be to me. And if I make something new seem to be to me, then that thing will be. That thing is. And it is also for sustenance. If I make it be to myself that I am perfectly healthy, for example, then it is true that I am perfectly healthy. And if 50 years from now I'm still sustaining that state, And I don't excuse myself from that state to a new state of, oh, I'm now old. And so because I'm old and I'm aging, then my health will reduce. If I don't do that, and I make it seem to be to myself that I am perfectly healthy, guess what will happen? It will still be. That's what is for me. So what is for you? Everything that you describe of your life currently, it is there because it first seems to be for you. It's just like the clock. How was the first one made? Well, it was imagined. Just like the cars. How was the first one made? Well, first imagined. Go look at all of the concept cars today. And give 10 years from now, they're going to become the actual cars. But 10 years ago, they were only being imagined by the creators. So, what do you want in your life? You must know the one way you can make any new thing happen for you is to make it seem to be. But like I said, divine mercy steps beyond and redeems man in the body of Jesus. And I said, you are loved. God is love. And this world is the world of death. But you being in love with the human experience, you fuse with it and you become one with it. But actually, you are always loved. And Neville gave us this here. He said, to stand in the presence of the risen Christ and commune with him face to face and voice to voice, then to have love, his infinite love, embrace you. And as he embraces you, you fuse with him without loss of identity, no change in your identity, and yet you are one with the body of Christ. In one of the classes that will be coming in the group sessions in this month's exercise, we're going to learn further about how you have to focus on the spiritual level. You have the focus of your divine nature, and you also have the focus of your human experience. And both of them are actually focuses you must work with. But for now, it would be sufficient to realize that you are here not so that you can return into universal consciousness, but so that you, the individual consciousness, would be the universal consciousness in capacity, in activity, in responsibility, and in delivery. Capacity meaning in all of the things you think you can do or that you know you can do. In responsibility meaning how you actually exercise your creative powers. And in delivery meaning what actually happens based on your exercise. You are here to know that you are God, but that doesn't mean that you stop being who you are right now. Who are you right now? I mean, take your name, take your human nature. Say you are, well, I am Adelere. And I love that a lot. And yes, I am God. But I never for once go, oh, because I am God, I'll stop being Adelere and I'll just be I am. No, I loved Adelere. That's why I chose him. Never would you have created a thing unless you loved it. So I loved him, and so I created him, and now I am him. And so I want him to wake up and realize he is I. This is one of the distinctions between what Neville and Blake are really saying and what many schools of metaphysics say. This is one of the places where we actually find a dividing gap that cannot be reconciled. Because when you come to other ideas, the general outline of it is that you should go back into universal consciousness. But here, we're learning that you should be more and more individual. That means I can be something in my life and look at what you're being in your life. And it is great, it's amazing. I adore how you use your creative power, but I don't want to be it. I don't have to be it. And I want you to actually frame it from your own viewpoint. That the real deal is always what do you want? Because that's how you become more and more individual by personalizing your life, making it what you actually want for yourself. How do you want your growth to be? Okay, so you're at work and you have this position. Maybe your position right now is the position of the um, regional manager. Okay, and then they've said that, yeah, it takes 5 years before you can become the national manager or the national director, because that's how everyone else has done it. Okay, well, that's their own cup of tea. You are God, but you also maintain your own identity as who you are. So, what do you want personally, individually, for your own self? What do you actually want for your own self? Well, you want to be the national director in this year, and everyone else is saying that it usually takes 5 years before that happens. Well, what are you doing listening to what everyone else is saying? They are God, and that's how they want to exercise their own rights, their own creative power. But you, on the other hand, is individual in you selecting. And I would use this word discriminating human experiences one from another, choosing the one he likes and the one he doesn't like, removing it out of consciousness, paying zero attention to it, and becoming indifferent to it until it vanishes as if it never were. That's your power, in case you don't realize it. And that's love. Love is not love that accepts all things. Love is love that is selective. So you choose on an individual level. And then you wanted this here. Okay, now assume that you already have it. Assume that it is actually here, that you have that position. And they're saying it should take a number of years, but that's their own. Assume that you have it now, and then you will have it. It will actually happen. This is a funny story. A friend, very good friend of mine, um, and he once mentored me about money under the law of attraction system and all of that. So one day we were talking about relationships, and this was before I even ever met my wonderful queen. Now, in fact, this was before I changed my own concept of self. So I was still quite broke at the time. I didn't have much money and all of that. But I had a relationship then. It wasn't ideal. It wasn't what I wanted perfectly, but it was what I had. And we were talking, and he was married by this time. Then he said something to me. He said, number one, he said, I took 9 years to plan what my marriage would be like. I'd been planning it from age this to age this. Okay. Then he said I ensured that I was already earning about 200,000 naira every month. That's six figures, 200,000 naira every month. Before I even ever did our introduction and then carried on with the marriage. I was like, oh wow, nice, that's really good. Because at the time, if I had 20,000 naira in a month, I was lucky. Okay. Then one day, when I was working on my own concept of self about relationship, marriage, and money, and I realized that I wasn't abundant in my relationship. And I figured one of the things that I always thought to myself was I would like to do it the way he did it. But in all honesty, I want to be married very young. When I'm still young, I want to actually get married early. That's one. In all honesty, I don't want to be having 200,000 in a month when I'll get married. I want to be having millions in a month. In all honesty. So I actually sat with myself and accepted what I wanted individually, even though he already experienced his own creation in an amazing way. And what he did works for him. I witnessed, I wasn't at the marriage one, broadcasted it, and it was fantastic. But that didn't have to be mine. So I chose what I wanted individually. That enriched our experiences. Yesterday he messaged me. He said, congratulations on your new home. And he actually blessed me for it. Oh, and I thought 2 years ago or last year, before I changed that concept, I thought he was saying that because he wanted me to be like him. But here we are today, and he's actually celebrating with me for what I had done. And earlier this year, he messaged me with, you're being an inspiration to lots of people, keep it going. So What is your own individual experience that you would love? You are God creating a unique experience. Love it. Love your own life. Love how you want it to be. Love it intensely. Love it so much that you don't care how anyone else is creating theirs. That's their own cup of tea. I would share my success stories definitely. But what you want to take out of it is what I did and how it worked and not what I'm creating. You want to create what you want to create, but you can use the process because it's always the same process. So without loss of identity, no change in your identity, and you're yet one with the body of Christ. So if that is God's actual purpose with you, if that is how He's dealing it with you, then why would you want to vary it and go back into universal consciousness? Why not be more individual? If you like wine, then take wine. If you like meat, then take meat. If you like to dance, then dance. If you like to talk, then talk. If you like to walk, then walk. If you like to be rich, then be rich. Don't go, well, I don't know, I want to be rich, but I don't know if that would be something that is nice for the rest of my family or my community or something. So I chose it myself. I'd like to actually be a millionaire. I don't have to be a thousandaire by the time I got married. And yes, I am. I'm earning, oh, actually, sometimes in a week, I would spend 10 times more. What he said he was earning in a month. By the time he got married, spending 10 times more of it in a week. So, what are you creating for your own individual experience? What do you love your life to be? We have to come to this. You are God. Do you actually know it? You know, if I ask you that question, do you know that you are God? The honest answer you can deliver, if you're honest with yourself, before you begin to experience your creative power by practice and then ultimately by the mystical experience of the promise, your honest answer would be, I don't know. I don't actually think so. And I know that there are many of us here who actually hear this statement, you are God now. And you're thinking maybe I'm saying that, yeah, like you're a part of God, or like you are because God is in you, or like, oh yeah, because you're a subset of God. But that's not it. I'm saying you are the one being that everyone calls God. When everyone goes to the temple to worship and they bow down to something and they think they're bowing to a God, they actually they intend to bow to you, but they don't know that you are the one. But actually, in their own lives, they ought to be bowing only to the imagination. That is each person personally. But I'm letting you realize that the concept everyone holds of the universal creator of the whole life, that is you. You are God. Now let us look at this passage of scriptures. The first one says, and the word became flesh and dwelt within us, full of grace and truth. We have beheld his glory, glory as of the only Son from the Father. So the word became flesh. Are you now flesh? Well, yes, you are. You have ears, you have eyes, and you flesh, you have body that is weak. It can be heard, and it can also be maintained. It can be made gorgeous and beautiful. You have flesh, but it was word that became flesh. So you see flesh anywhere. You see any human being, and he is flesh, right? Because that's what it means to be human being. You are looking at what the word became. You're looking at God. God is not afar off, and is not even near as to be with you. You are He. And that one says, the Spirit of God has made me. The breath of the Almighty gives me life. Oh, okay. So if the Spirit of God has made me and the breath of the Almighty gives me life, or is the life of me, then could I separate myself from the Almighty? Of course not. Do you not know that you are God's temple and the Spirit of God dwells in you? But this might still give you the impression of, oh yeah, it's like I am in the house, so the house contains me. Of course, I and the house are still separate. Okay, you might still think that way. But now look at this particular passage, First John 4, verse 13. It says, we are in him. That's one. Okay, so that means that I am in him. He covers me, right? But then it's also saying he's in us. Now that's the second. This is to say he's in me and I cover him. So if I cover him and he covers me, then I and he must be one. Just think of it as two circles. Let me use an illustration here. Let's take two circles. One moment. Okay. All right. So we can see my screen now, right?
Yes.
So let's say this is the first circle. And we say God is, we are in God. So that means I am in him. And let's use another color for that. Okay. So that is me being in him. That's you being in him. Now, the second statement is in us, and it's actually in that passage, the same passage of First John 4, verse 13. So is in us is like this. This is he, and let's go for us. Oh, one moment, actually. Not sure why you're not why I'm able to create it here. Okay, well, I'm not able to create the illustration I was trying to do. Let's see. Let me try it again. No, it's not. It's not functioning. Okay, but if you can picture what I'm saying, the second circle means is in us. That means the red circle is going to be bigger than the black circle, right? The black circle representing God, the red circle representing us. But if that is true, that means the two circles are actually edge by edge placed on one another as the same size, the same reach. And so the two of them are actually one. Okay, we have it here. Yeah, it's still not working fine. So let's skip it. Placements of scriptures. So you again, we're the same. That's the only way the two of them could be in one another. Otherwise, it only has to be one that would be in the other. If we are in him, then he's greater. If he's in us, then we are greater. But hey, we are in him and he's in us. So we are equal. We're the same. We are actually one. You are God. And Neville said, I am not bending my head when I say God is mad. I'm not trying to, the same thing as I hear. I'm not trying to say, oh yeah, maybe God is like, God is in man, but man also has his own ways and things that are not God's. No, you never have anything that is outside of God in your consciousness. So I'm not trying to say it. It's not like something I'm trying to say to only some people, and I'm not saying to some other people. Sometimes I say to a person and I know it will disturb them, but I'll still say it. So don't you realize that you are God and it's to disturb them? And they go, what do you mean? How could you say something like that? Well, I've said it. You want to fight it? Fight it. It's your nature. You're God. But I have just said it. I've just said the truth of it. And I'm not bowing. I'm not saying it in a humble manner. I'm not trying to trying to say something and sweeten it and say maybe you're a part of the source or something. You are God. Each one of you here. And let's put it this way. you are a man. God is no more. Your own humanity learn to adore. This particular statement, if you understand the grasp of it, if you grasp it, if you understand the meaning of it, then it would make you make sense of when I was saying become more and more individual. You are meant to, this is the purpose of God in being you, in becoming you, 100%. It is that you can function as an individual, being individual, but you can function as the universal, rather. You're functioning, being individual, but as the universal. So you are a man, and consequence of that, God is no more. The word became flesh. I'm looking at myself, I look at any human being on earth, and that man is God. But so that it can be, God is no more. Your own humanity, which God chose to become. If you're not falling in love with yourself right now, I really want you to start doing that. Fall in love with yourself. Because your humanity, God chose it, came into it, and ceased to be God. That must be because He loved it so much. So learn to adore it. Learn to adore everything that is human about you. All your weaknesses, learn to adore them. They are strength for God. God loved it, loved you, became you. And then, of course, when you learn to adore something, you know what you do to it? If you met it rough, but you learn to adore it, what do? You make it worse. Someone, anyone, let me know. What would you do to something? You find it and it's in a rough shape, it's terrible, but you're learning to adore it. So what would you do to it? Anyone here? You refine it. Okay, good. Yes, you refine it. That's one of the things you can do to it. Any other person, as you adoring something is broken, but you're learning to adore it, and it was broken. So what do you do to it? Any other person, please participate in this. You fixed it. Okay, good. So you mix something. It's in a rough shape, but you refine it. You mix something. No, you learning to adore it. That particular thing. You don't make another. Blessed. You revalue it. Thank you, Nolly. Yes, you revalue it. You fix it. You refine it. You beautify it. You glorify it. You make it the best. You make it adorable because you now adorn it. If you enter a garden and that garden was actually wild, it's full of all sorts of weeds. It's terrible to look at. It's even more terrible to walk in. But now you love it. You're learning to adorn that. You're learning to adorn that garden. What do you think you're gonna do to it? You're going to start pruning it. You're going to start making it the most beautiful garden ever. You work on it morning, noon, and night. You work on it day after day. No break because you love it. You adorn it. You perfect it. That's the key word. You make it become perfect. And so create your own perfect life. Your own humanity, learn to adore. Your own humanity, learn to adore. And if you're adoring it, then you must be making it perfect. You are God, individual, because you can identify yourself as a single human being, and it looks to you like the whole vast world is independent of you, but actually it's all within you. And it looks to you like things that are outside of you are so independent of you and so fixed and so real, but it's because you make them seem to be. It seems to be to you first. That's why they're there. Now you learn that you are actually loved and that you are God. And because you are now man, because the word became flesh, God is no more. So your humanity, adore it as if it is the only divinity, as if it is all the perfection in this world. You perfect it. every aspect of it. Your finances, if it's in a rough shape, well then begin to adorn your humanity. It's your humanity. Perfect it. Don't run into, oh yeah, soul consciousness and then do 50 hours of meditation into this vortex so that I can escape your finances. No, come back to face it. I am going to make gold out of these ordinary pebbles. Then make gold out of it. You're God, you have that power. You have the universal power on an individual level. That means, that means you have both the power and the pressure of the power to work with high intensity. If you understand what I'm saying, if you put something that is so big, right, that's like infinite, and you put it into a limited container, then you're going to have applied pressure to force it into that container. And that means that particular thing can erupt. You can erupt. Oh, can your imagination influence the actions of other people? If you've actually followed us from the beginning, your imagination is affecting every person in this world. But you're not to use your imagination in order to influence people. You're to use your imagination to imply the wishes fulfilled. And that would influence the people who have to be influenced. Okay? So you don't try to influence people directly. If, for example, you want love, well, then assume that you are in love or that you have love. And then the people who have to be influenced to make you experience that love would be influenced. But if you're trying to influence a certain person, what you've done is you've already left the objective of love. Okay? So we don't do that. We don't do it that way. Okay. How do you appear now? And who are you really? God appears and God is light. This is William Blake. God appears and God is light to those poor souls who dwell in night. But a human form in displays to all of us who are dwelling in the realm of day. So I'm here right now, I'm wearing the form of God. And that form is flesh, it is human, it is me, it is I. You're wearing the form of God. You have the name of God actually. You are always I am, but you're wearing the form of God. We find you as human, and God is no more. So you're appearing to us as human. You're appearing to us as in the human form, but actually, you are the light of this world. That happened some time ago. I also experienced it. And I was running away from myself, and I thought I was running away from other people because they seemed to me to be very scary, very terrible, and the whole thing was becoming darker and darker. And I reached a certain point, it was the limit, and I turned back and I faced them, and I went, oh, but I am the light. And the moment I became aware of that, it was infinite light. The whole thing just vanished as if it was never there. So so bright light, I couldn't describe it, but I knew I am it. Then I woke. So he appears and he is light to poor souls who dwell at night. And I thought they were actually running after me, trying to take my life, but really, they only wanted my me to show my glory. And I turned and I actually changed the intention. And I became aware that I am the light, and the whole thing vanished. But you wake up right now, and in the day, you're having a human form. You live as human, you eat, you drink, you do all of these things that we do every day as human. But you are God. He gave you his name. The name he reveals to the whole vast world, if you take it, is I am. That's my name forever. I'll be known by it. It will be known, I'll be known by it throughout all generations. So, where perfection has God's form. And I want all of us to do it right now. In 15 seconds, you're going to concentrate on this idea. I am perfect. You're going to feel like your whole life is, because that's the perfect image of God. You are the perfect image of God. And he's working out the perfection of himself in you because you and he are one. So 15 seconds. Now let us know when it's time. So all you just want to focus on is this particular idea. I am perfect. Then feel it to be true. Dwell in it as if it were true. And see that it becomes so in your mind's eye. Okay? So you mentally repeat, I am perfect. And then feeling perfection. I am perfect. Are we ready? In three, two, one, start. All right. Now you're adorning your humanity. You're adoring your humanity. You're going to do it again. You're going to do it in this form. I am the perfection of all life. You're going to be taking the same 15 seconds. And you want to mentally repeat this. Make it seem to be to you. And if it seems to be, then it is. For as long as you make it seem to be. If it can be true of torment, despair, and death, according to the comments of William Blake, then it is true also of perfection and life and love. So, I'm the perfection of all life. 15 seconds. The time starts in three, two, one, now. Okay. For everyone with the group in the group exercise, in the month exercise, this is what you're going to do next now. In this first 3 days, because I believe that today is the third of the 3 days, right? So in the first 3 days, there's a certain area of your life, and it's actually your whole life, but you're conceiving a certain perfection in it. And the rest of us can actually follow this exercise here. You're conceiving a certain perfection for your whole life. You've lived a perfect life all your life, all of your life. And I believe that by now you know what that perfection is going to be like. What you're going to do now is going to actually practice this speech. I am the perfection of my life. And you're going to make yourself feel like it's the end of those of the days. Like it's if the year you would like to live up to is 2090, then you're going to make yourself feel like this is 2090, and you're feeling yourself, I am the perfection of my life. You're feeling like it has been a perfect life all the way. Are we ready to do that? Do you all understand this exercise? And the perfection of all life. Making yourself feel like this now is the last year of your human life on this level. And then you're going, I'm the perfection of my life. Feeling as if you actually lived the perfect life. Not one perfect life, the perfect life. And that you are it. All right? So we're going to be doing this for 30 seconds actually. So the time is starting in three. First, is everyone clear about it? Yes, this is living in the end. Yes. So you bring that year to now. This is no longer 2023 for you. The minute you close your eyes to actually hear this idea in your mind, this is now 20, whatever that year is, or maybe 21 something, as long as you like to live. And then you bring the idea that you've lived the perfect life into yourself, into your awareness, and then you feel it to be true. I am the perfection of all life. Okay, so we started in 3, 2, 1, go. Excellent. Right, we've done it. So there we go. Wear this perfection on your name every now and then. You are God. You're not a part of God. You're altogether God, and God is altogether you. Because He is in us, and we are in Him. So if He is in us, and we are in Him, then we must be one. We must be the actual thing. That's the only way that can make sense. All right. Um, I'll be throwing this invitation to everyone who's not in class yet. Well, this June, be in class. The perfect life is within. If you ask me, I actually got these questions, I think yesterday. It's questions like this. So what's your routine of imagination? Well, I'm always in my class. I'm actually always exercising what the class instructions are. Oh, Adelere, how do you stay on the wish fulfilled? Well, I do the exercise of my monthly classes. That's really it. I do the exercise in monthly classes. I usually start ahead of others, but that's so that I can teach what I'm teaching by experience and not be telling you theory, but I've already done it. I know what I'm saying when I say you should do it. And I can tell you how you would feel, how it works if you're doing it properly. Adelere, how do you visualize your desires? Well, I stick to following the instructions in my monthly exercise. I imagine every month. I don't do I don't enter a month randomly or by chance. I imagine something exact that I want. And not all the things that I imagine in a month happens, but of course, the same thing is that my life doesn't remain the same month after month. I actually change. I transform month after month. And all of you here can tell it that it is literally before your own eyes that I am fashioning a life every month that is greater, better, and more amazing than the life you knew the month before. Even the closest of you could also say the same about me. So be in class and do the exercise. And yes, maybe not everything happens, but you don't know. You've created many things that would actually happen in the future. My wedding is in this month, but it was June 26th last month that I actually created the inner conversation for my marriage. All the while from last month until now, I haven't actually done the marriage. I was only in a relationship. Do you realize now that it is actually in this month that the marriage is starting, that I am manifesting the exact thing that the inner speech is saying? But I did it then. What's the chance I would get it now if I didn't do it? Well, zero. So create your life. You can register with this link if you've not got it before, or you can message me. Either ways it works. So this is the link to register. The perfect life is within. And also finally, we have 3, 6. We have the interpretations of the scriptures by the law of assumption coming up. It's going to be the first day would be July 15th. So every day we're going to be learning a passage of scripture, the story of scriptures. We're going to be learning the meaning of it. And now we actually can apply it as the imagination. So you can also register for this now. You can actually register for it before ahead of time, and registration link is right there. So thank you everyone for your wonderful attendance, and we're going to be meeting next week for another session of this. Have a great time and bye bye.